Most people believe they are bad at English speaking, but that belief itself is the biggest misunderstanding. You already understand English, you can read it, and you can even think in it sometimes, yet the moment you try to speak, you hesitate or freeze. This doesn't happen because of lack of grammar, vocabulary, or talent. It happens because you are unknowingly repeating certain English-speaking mistakes every single day. These mistakes are not obvious, which is why they are dangerous. They quietly block fluency, slow down your thinking speed, and destroy confidence from inside. The more you practice English in the wrong way, the more stuck you feel, even after years of learning. That's why effort alone doesn't work if direction is wrong. In this video, we will break down the most common English-speaking mistakes step by step using logic, psychology, and real-world speaking behavior. No fake motivation, no shortcuts, no emotional drama, only practical clarity. If you want to stop struggling and start speaking English naturally and confidently, this video is exactly where your correction begins. The biggest English-speaking mistake: fear over facts. Let's be brutally honest, the biggest English-speaking mistake is fear, not grammar. Most people already know basic English. They understand sentences, words, meanings. But the moment they have to speak, their brain goes into panic mode. Why? Because they are more scared of being judged than being wrong. And that fear silently kills fluency before it even starts. Here's the rational truth: speaking is a skill, not a test. You don't pass or fail English in real life. Language exists for communication, not for perfection. Babies don't learn language by studying rules, they learn by making thousands of mistakes. Adults do the opposite, they stay silent to avoid one mistake. That's not intelligence, that's insecurity. Another common issue is overthinking while speaking. People try to construct a perfect sentence in their head before opening their mouth. Result? Long pauses, broken flow, and lost confidence. Native speakers don't speak perfectly, they speak automatically. Fluency comes from speed and comfort, not from correctness. If your message is understood, your English is working. So the first mindset shift is simple but powerful: allow yourself to sound imperfect. Mistakes are not embarrassing, silence is. The more you speak, the more your brain adapts. English is not impressed by fear. It responds only to practice. Kill the fear first. Everything else becomes fixable after that. Translating from your native language, the silent fluency killer. One of the most common English-speaking mistakes is mental translation. People first think in their native language, then convert it into English, and only after that they speak. This process is slow, exhausting, and mentally chaotic. That's why sentences come out broken, late, or completely wrong. Your brain is doing double work, and language doesn't work well like that. From a scientific perspective, fluency requires direct neural pathways. When you translate, you're not building English thinking pathways. You're strengthening your native language dependency. That's why even after years of studying English, many people still freeze in real conversations. They never trained their brain to think in English, only to convert into English. Another problem with translation is emotional mismatch. Every language has its own rhythm, tone, and structure. When you translate directly, your sentence sounds unnatural or robotic. That's why people say grammatically correct sentences that still sound off. Native speakers don't translate feelings. They express them using patterns they've heard thousands of times. The solution is practical, not magical. Start forming small thoughts in English. Not speeches, just basic inner dialogue. I'm hungry. I need water. This is confusing. Train your brain to respond in English without permission from your native language. The day you stop translating is the day your fluency speed multiplies. Obsessing over grammar while speaking. Another massive English-speaking mistake is treating grammar like a police officer while you're talking. People keep checking tenses, articles, prepositions, and sentence structure in real time. That's like trying to calculate physics equations while riding a bike. You'll fall. Speaking is a real-time activity. Grammar checking is an offline process. Here's the uncomfortable truth: perfect grammar is not required for effective communication. Even native speakers break grammar rules daily. They use fragments, fillers, slang, and shortcuts. Yet communication still happens smoothly. Why? Because fluency is about flow and clarity, not textbook accuracy. Grammar matters, but not during live speaking. When you overfocus on grammar, your speech becomes slow and unnatural. You pause too much, lose confidence mid-sentence, and sometimes abandon your point entirely. This trains your brain to associate English with stress. Over time, your brain starts avoiding English automatically, because it feels like work, not communication. The smart approach is separation of tasks. Learn grammar when you're studying, forget grammar when you're speaking. While speaking, aim to deliver meaning. Later, you can reflect, correct, and improve. Language mastery comes from this cycle. Speak freely. Notice mistakes. Refine later. Fluency first, polish second. Using complex vocabulary to sound smart. A surprisingly common English-speaking mistake is the obsession with big, complex words. Many learners believe that advanced vocabulary equals intelligence. So they force difficult words into sentences, even when simpler words would work better. The result? Confusing, unnatural, and sometimes incorrect communication. Let's be realistic and scientific here. Clarity beats complexity every single time. Native speakers prefer simple, direct language. CEOs, scientists, and top communicators don't speak to impress, they speak to be understood. Overloading your speech with heavy vocabulary increases cognitive load, for you and for the listener. That kills fluency and confidence. Another issue is memory pressure. When you try to recall advanced words mid-conversation, your brain slows down. You hesitate, lose flow, and sometimes forget the entire sentence. This creates anxiety, and anxiety further reduces speaking ability. It becomes a self-sabotaging loop. Sound smart. Lose fluency. Sound less confident. The smarter strategy is this. Master simple words deeply. Use basic vocabulary with speed, accuracy, and confidence. Once fluency is stable, advanced words will naturally attach themselves over time. Real intelligence in language is not how difficult your words are, it's how easily people understand you. Avoiding speaking because of accent anxiety. Accent anxiety is one of the most underestimated English-speaking mistakes. Many people stay silent because they think their accent is bad or wrong. Let's destroy this myth with logic. There is no single correct English accent. English is spoken globally by millions of non-native speakers. Accent is a feature, not a flaw. From a linguistic point of view, accent does not block communication, pronunciation clarity does. If people understand your words, your accent is already doing its job. Even native speakers from different countries struggle to understand each other sometimes. That's normal. Communication is about mutual adjustment, not accent perfection. The real danger is what accent fear does to confidence. When you constantly monitor how you sound, you stop focusing on what you're saying. Your speech becomes tense, unnatural, and hesitant. Over time, this trains your brain to associate English with embarrassment. That's not a language problem, that's a psychological one. The fix is practical. Aim for clear pronunciation, not accent elimination. Slow down slightly, open your mouth properly, and pronounce full words instead of mumbling. Your accent will naturally soften with exposure and usage. Confidence improves fluency. Fluency improves accent, not the other way around. Not listening enough to real English. One of the most ignored English-speaking mistakes is poor listening habits. Many learners focus only on speaking or memorizing vocabulary but barely expose themselves to real, natural English. That's like trying to play music without ever listening to songs. Your brain needs input before it can produce output. From a cognitive science perspective, language patterns are absorbed subconsciously through repetition. When you listen to real English, podcasts, interviews, casual conversations, your brain starts recognizing sentence structures, rhythm, and common phrases automatically. Without this exposure, you're forced to build sentences manually every time you speak, which is slow and tiring. Another problem is listening only to over-clean classroom English. Real conversations include contractions, fillers, pauses, and informal expressions. If your ear isn't trained for that, you panic during real interactions, even if your grammar knowledge is strong. That gap creates frustration and self-doubt. The solution is simple but requires discipline: daily passive listening. You don't need to understand 100%. Even 60 to 70% is enough. Let your brain adapt. Fluency is built when your brain recognizes patterns instantly. Listening is not optional, it's the backbone of natural speaking. Speaking too little and expecting big results. This mistake is pure wishful thinking. Minimal speaking, maximum fluency expectations. Many learners watch videos, read posts, save vocabulary, but barely speak. Then they wonder why fluency isn't improving. Language is a motor skill. You don't learn swimming by watching swimming. Neuroscience is clear on this. Speaking activates different brain areas than reading or listening. Until you physically move your mouth, control breath, and form sounds, your brain doesn't build speaking pathways. Silent knowledge feels productive, but it doesn't convert into real-world ability. Another issue is waiting for confidence before speaking. Confidence doesn't come first, action does. People who speak badly today are confident tomorrow. People who wait stay stuck forever. Fluency is not a reward for preparation, it's a byproduct of repeated discomfort. The fix is non-negotiable. Speak daily, even alone. Talk to yourself, describe actions, explain ideas out loud. 10 minutes of real speaking beats 1 hour of passive learning. English improves when you force output, not when you wait for perfection. Comparing yourself with fluent speakers. Comparison is a psychological trap that silently destroys English fluency. Many learners compare their broken English with someone who has been speaking for years. That's not motivation, that's self-sabotage. You're comparing different timelines, not different intelligence levels. From a rational perspective, fluency is exposure plus repetition over time. People you admire didn't wake up fluent. They accumulated thousands of speaking hours. When you compare your day 10 performance with someone's year 10 output, your brain labels English as unreachable. That belief kills effort. Another danger of comparison is imitation overload. Learners try to copy accent, speed, humor, and vocabulary all at once. This overwhelms the brain and increases anxiety. Instead of developing your own stable speaking style, you chase an unrealistic ideal. The intelligent move is self-comparison only. Track improvement week to week, not person to person. Fluency grows when pressure is low and consistency is high. English is not a competition, it's a personal skill journey. Learning random English without a system. Another underrated English speaking mistake is random learning. One day you watch a grammar video, next day you save Instagram vocabulary, then you jump to idioms, then pronunciation hacks. It feels productive, but in reality, it's mental noise. Your brain loves patterns. Randomness kills retention. Scientifically speaking, the brain learns language best through structured repetition. When learning is scattered, nothing sticks long-term. That's why many learners know thousands of words but can't form basic sentences while speaking. Knowledge without structure doesn't convert into skill. Random learning also creates false confidence. You feel like you're improving because you're consuming content, but when it's time to speak, everything collapses. This gap between consumption and execution leads to frustration and self-blame, when the real problem is the system, not you. The fix is brutally simple: limit inputs, repeat outputs. Focus on daily speaking topics, common sentence patterns, and reusable phrases. Master fewer things deeply instead of touching everything lightly. Fluency grows from consistency, not chaos. Quitting too early and calling it lack of talent. The final and most dangerous English speaking mistake is giving up too soon and blaming talent. Let's be clear and logical. Language ability is not a genetic gift. It's a trained cognitive skill. Every fluent speaker you see is a product of time, repetition, and discomfort, not luck or IQ. Most people quit during the ugly phase, when they can understand English but can't speak smoothly. This phase feels frustrating because progress is invisible. But neurologically, this is exactly when the brain is restructuring itself. Quitting here is like leaving the gym right before muscle growth starts. Another illusion is expecting linear progress. Language improvement is messy. Some days you speak well, some days you sound worse than before. That's normal. Skill development is nonlinear. People who succeed are not the most talented, they're the most consistent under confusion. So here's the rational conclusion. Don't romanticize fluency, systemize it. Speak daily, accept mistakes, track small wins, and stay long enough for results to show. English doesn't reject anyone, only impatience does. If you stay in the process, fluency becomes inevitable. If you've reached this point, one thing should be clear: English speaking is not about talent or luck, it's about removing the mistakes that silently hold you back. Fluency doesn't come from learning more rules, it comes from practicing in the right direction with patience and consistency. Once you stop fearing mistakes and start using English as a tool instead of a test, progress becomes natural. Now the real work begins after this video. Don't try to fix everything at once. Pick one mistake, correct it consciously, and speak daily without waiting for perfection. Improvement will feel slow at first, but that's exactly how real skill development works. Stay in the process long enough, and fluency becomes unavoidable. If this video helped you see English speaking more clearly, stay connected and keep learning with me. We're not here to chase motivation, we're here to build real ability. Speak, fail, adjust, repeat. That's how English finally starts working for you.